How many sacks can you get in one game of NCAA 25 under perfect conditions? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. And to do so, I'm going to be using the Georgia Bulldogs, one of the best teams in the game, and I'm going to be up against Akron, one of the worst teams in the game. I'm trying to get as many sacks as possible in this video, so I'm doing everything I possibly can, including setting the difficulty at freshman, turning the quarters to 15 minutes, and of course using a very, very good team against an overmatched opponent. And that's not the only goal of this video. I also want to knock out as many quarterbacks as possible, hopefully knocking out every single one and seeing what the computer will do. And honestly, the strategy is pretty simple. I want Akron to have the ball as much as possible, so we will not be playing any offense, and we're going to try to force a lot of long second and third downs. When they do punt it to us in the early parts of the game, I'll try to run it back, but it's really not a big deal. I'm sure my defense will score a lot and make sure that we actually win the game. Beyond that, anytime I get the ball, I'll probably just punt or kick a field goal to give them the ball right back on first down, because I need to maximize the amount of time that the Akron quarterback is on the field getting destroyed by this NFL caliber defensive line. And I fully expect it to be more difficult early in the game to get as many sacks as I would like. The quarterback's more fresh. Once we hit him a few times, the wear and tear feature is going to pick up. He should get significantly slower. His arm ratings will go down, which will make it much easier to get to him. And if we do manage to knock him out of the game, the backup quarterbacks are in for a very, very bad day. It's going to be open season. There won't be anything they can do to keep these Georgia defenders away from the backup quarterback. The third string, the fourth string. We'll see if we actually get to that point, though. But as you can see, the defense is off to a pretty good start. Only 7 sacks so far, but already a defensive touchdown. We're up 21-0, and my offense has not touched the ball yet. Haven't even touched it one snap. And with that tackle right there, the quarterback is already showing big signs of wear and tear damage, which is what we're looking for. That should not only lead to more sacks, but will also lead to worse quarterback play. And as the game goes along, I'll be subbing in a bunch of different defensive linemen, so my defensive linemen will be fresh, while their offensive linemen are going to get exhausted, beat up, bruised, and battered. I fully expect the second half of this game to ramp up dramatically when it comes to how many sacks I can get. Right now, we're off to kind of a slow start with only 12 sacks late in the first quarter, but I'm kind of expecting to get more like 25 or 30 in the second half per quarter. Once we wear them down and get the backups in there, the talent gap will just grow. And I'm also hoping that as my lead grows and we get farther into the game, Akron will think they have to pass to get back in the game more, meaning these annoying running plays will go away, and we'll be able to absolutely tee off on this terrible, terrible offense. After the first quarter, we only had 14 sacks. Hopefully that changes. That is way lower than I hoped. At this pace, we'll only get 56 sacks in the game. And like I said earlier, I'm kind of hoping to break 100. I don't even know if the game will track it once we get that high. There's a lot of weird statistical anomalies in this game where they just cut off stats. So assuming that doesn't happen, hopefully we can get at least close to 100. And I started to catch my groove in the second quarter. We were all over the quarterback, sacking them again and again and again. I had found my groove. I'd figured out what play calls worked to both quickly stuff the run, but more importantly, get after the passer. But the annoying thing was I could not stop this quarterback from throwing interceptions. It was his favorite thing to do, and I can only assume that would be worse with the other quarterbacks that hopefully we can get into this game once we knock him out, which I'm kind of surprised hasn't already happened. The dude's taken 20 sacks, threw interceptions, fumbled the ball a bunch of times, but still remains in there. Is the backup that bad, or is this guy that tough? I don't know, but I do know that my defense is 100% feeling it at this point. Everything's going right. They can't do a thing on the ground, through the air, at all. Their best plays are honestly interceptions to my team, because at least the quarterback isn't getting killed whenever he throws a pick. It's kind of the best outcome. They're not going to score. Not on this team. And just like that, we got another fumble touchdown, and the quarterback is absolutely battered. Surely he's going to get knocked out at some point. He can't keep this up. I mean, this is like Joe Burrow those first few years with the Bengals. Only instead of getting hit this many times throughout the season, it's happening in one game, first week of the year. Not a good look for Akron. But I have to admit, I thought the starter would be completely knocked out of the game before halftime, and he definitely wasn't. At halftime, we're up 34-0 with 29 sacks, which is an unprecedented amount, but is much lower than I hoped. If we're going to get 100, we have to pick things up, and the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to knock the starter out of the game. We need worse quarterback play. He's mobile, he's hard to get to. Maybe it will help if we get their backup in, and just like that, there he is. We've got their second string guy in. Now, we didn't knock the starter completely out of the game, but with the backup in, we did get 2 easy sacks, a good sign to say the least. And in my experience, once a quarterback gets knocked out once, it's much easier to knock them out again, and his attributes have taken a huge negative hit, which is going to help. He's much slower, can't throw the ball down the field, and Akron, like I predicted, is throwing the ball much more often. We are racking up sacks much more quickly than we did in the first half, and if we could get them to stop throwing picks, we would probably get even more. But that's not going to happen. This guy has no chance. He's under ridiculous pressure, his receivers stink, and he is beaten up very badly. Look at that wear and tear meter. That's one of the worst ones I've ever seen. The coach should pull him out or get sent to prison. There's no reason he's in the game. It's 34-0. It could be a lot worse as well. Take this guy out and put him on ice. Literally, put him on ice. But after a couple more very violent sacks, we finally do manage to get this guy out of the game for good and get the backup quarterback in for the remainder of the game or until we remove him forcefully, which is probably the more likely option. And I do have to say, my prediction about this getting a lot easier when the backup came in was 100% right. He's way less mobile. He holds onto the ball much longer. I'm sure that's an awareness trait or something. And he's got a noodle arm. And he fumbles the ball all the time. Honestly, I wish he didn't do that. The dude could not stop turning it over. It was either a fumble or an interception that ended pretty much every drive. But we also were racking up crazy stats. I made it past the 50 sack mark early in the 5th quarter, and I wasn't stopping there. I'd settled in on a specific play that was working like a charm. And if you've played this game at all online, you know what it is. Mid-blitz. It worked over and over and over again, especially once the offensive line got so tired. And because of how the CPU is programmed in this game, they don't pull them out nearly as often as they should. So my defensive line was fresh just like I predicted and was hammering away on this backup quarterback. I felt bad for him, even worse than I did for the starter. This dude showed up thinking he wasn't going to play today, but instead he's going to leave in an ambulance if he's lucky. But I do have to be fair, it does not look like I'm going to knock out every quarterback on their roster. I think it's probably possible, but you need to land bigger hits and get lucky with the injury luck. That being said, I was hopeful I could get to the 3rd string quarterback, and Ben Finley is taking a beating. That's the backup quarterback's name, by the way. And it makes sense. We're at 71 sacks and up 57 points. That's nuts. And after another violent sack, the backup quarterback got knocked out with a dislocated thumb. So we were on to the 3rd stringer, and he was even worse. He never threw the ball. If I could have played the whole game with him as quarterback, we probably would have got 150 sacks. There's no way he would have lived through that, but we would have got a lot of sacks. On the rare occasion he did throw the ball, it was pretty much always a terrible incompletion or more often an interception. This was so much fun to play against. Now the recording took years to film because the game was moving slowly, but that doesn't matter. I had a lot of fun. 86, 87 sacks. With a minute left, it doesn't look like I'm going to get to 100, but it's definitely a new record for sacks in a game. It might be a record for sacks in a season. I have no idea what that is. And it's also a record for interceptions in a game by a player and by a team. We got so many, and I honestly wish we got 0 because they really don't help with this challenge at all. And right at the end of the game, we get our final sack, meaning 91 sacks is the most that I can get in a game. And if you look through these individual sack numbers, they're all really good seasons, let alone one game. And you can see here, the game even shows 91 sacks, And Gabe Harris Jr. broke the single-season sack record in one game. I'd love to see someone get more sacks than this. It's definitely possible. Like and subscribe.